PTA Chapter 1067, Huntsville, Alabama.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for attending the 7th Annual 50th Anniversary of the Vietnam War Commemorative Partner Program Lecture Series. Please rise and remain standing for the singing of the National Anthem and the Invocation. The National Anthem is being sung today by Ron, Becky, and Nikki Marino.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Ron, Becky, and Nikki. Their group is called Liberty Song. Ladies and gentlemen, given the invocation today is Chaplain and Colonel James Henderson, U.S. Army retired, 26-year Army veteran and Vietnam veteran. Colonel Henderson.
Thank you, Sergeant Major, and good morning, everyone. What a beautiful day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice, truly rejoice, and be glad in it. And I have to say this is a highlight of my year, to be here with you, because we were there, and the Lord brought us home. Let us pray. Father, thank you for this special occasion, and Lord, we thank you for everyone present. We thank you for those who supported us. We thank you for those who were there. Lord, we thank you for the privilege to serve our country. We thank you for our country. We thank you for all who have served, all of our veterans, past, present, and those of the future. Lord, thank you for everyone who made this day possible, all who supported this event. God bless the United States of America. God bless all of our armed forces, all of our veterans. And Lord, thank you for all that you've done. Help us to remember all that we should and to forget all that we should. Help us to finish well, and most of all, Lord, help us to accomplish all the purposes for which you created us. And I pray in Jesus' holy name, amen. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Good morning. Or should I say, good morning, Vietnam. My name is John Perry, and I'm a Vietnam veteran. It is my honor to be here with you today to host the 7th Annual 50th Anniversary of the Vietnam War Lecture Series. Today we are honored to have Mr. Joe Bongiovanni, U.S. Marine and Vietnam veteran, as our guest speaker. But before we hear from Mr. Bongiovanni, I would like to recognize our hosting organizations. See if I can get that. Yep. The Redstone Huntsville Chapter of the Association of the United States Army and Chapter 1067 of the Vietnam Veterans of America. Let's give them applause. And thank you so much. I also want to thank our sponsors for their support, for without their assistance, this program would not be possible. So we want to thank Dynetics, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Intuitive, the VFW Post 5162, Paul Malone, and Ignite. Please give them a round of applause. Thank our sponsors for their continuing support since this is our 7th year. We would like to take a moment to recognize our military heroes for whom we owe our freedom. Please stand when I call out the period of time you were in uniform. The Vietnam War era is designated as the time between the years of 1964 and 1975. If you served in any branch of the military between 1964 and 64 and 75, or supported the Vietnam War effort in any way, please stand. Thank you very much. If you served in any branch of the armed forces prior to 64 in Korean War or World War II, please stand to be recognized. Thank you very much. If you served in the armed forces after 75, the Gulf War, Afghanistan, Iraq, or any other locations, please stand to be recognized. Thank you so much. If you are a spouse, son, or a daughter of a veteran, please stand. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you all for your service and your sacrifice to this great country. Please join me in a final round of applause for everyone who has served or helped in any way to the dedication of our country. Thank you. The 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War Lecture Series Committee is truly humbled by the presence of so many Huntsville, Madison, and Madison County and Redstone Arsenal leadership. We welcome and thank our elected officials, our team Redstone senior leadership, our community leaders, and all of our retired military officers who have joined us here today. Thank you for joining us to honor our Vietnam veterans and the Vietnam War. Today's VPs are our Vietnam veterans. They are here today to be recognized and thanked. So welcome home. To our Vietnam veterans, it is because of your commitment to our nation 50 years ago that today's soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guard, and Marines are welcome home from their wars as heroes. We are here today to honor your generation who have given so much that makes you the heroes of today's lecture series. Thank you. I would like to invite Major Zig Jastrzewski, Vietnam veteran, to come to the podium to continue with the next portion of the program. Ladies and gentlemen, Zig will be leading us in the White Table ceremony. The ceremony was started during the Vietnam War by pilots and navigators who flew missions over North Vietnam. Those pilots and navigators were members of the Red River Valley Fighter Pilots Association. The ceremony was conducted in memory of those who didn't return from their mission. Today, we are fortunate to have one of those original members of the Red River Valley Pilots Association. Please welcome Major Zig Jastrzebski, U.S. Air Force retired Vietnam veteran, who will narrate the White Table ceremony. Zig?
America's White Table represents every branch of the military and is meant to be a universal sign of brotherhood for all those missing in action, prisoners of war, and those who cannot be with us here today. The table ceremony we know as the Remembrance Table, the Missing Man Table, the MIA POW Table, or simply White Table, is a symbol of our missing and captive service members. As John said, this ceremony was started during the Vietnam War in this 1967-68 period, when members of the now as Red River Valley Fighter Pilots Association started remembering those crews that they had lost, who were POWs, MIAs, or killed in action. Following the Vietnam War, the White Table ceremony spread across all our military services and has become a standard during military dining-ins and dining-outs. At these ceremonies, a series of toasts are made. They are made to the President of the United States, the service chiefs of staff, the flag, and with a last toast with water to remember those who cannot be here with us until they come home. The table that's set before you, stands before you, is a place of honor. In setting this table, we here acknowledge those imprisoned and those missing from our celebration today. We remember them. The table is small. It is set for one, symbolizing the vulnerability of a lone prisoner against his captors. We remember. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing purity of intention and motives in responding to our nation's call to arms and when answering our call of duty. We remember. The single red rose displayed in a vase to remind us of the life of each of the missing and the loved ones and the friends of these Americans who keep the faith, awaiting answers and awaiting their return. We remember. The vase is tied with a yellow ribbon, symbolizing the power of the ties that bind us one to another in love and faithfulness. It tells the world we are remembering someone, and it symbolizes our continued determination to account for our missing. We remember. The burning candle symbolizes the burning hope that lives in our hearts and casts a light into the darkness to illuminate the missing's way home, away from their captors, to the open arms of loved ones and a grateful nation. We remember. The plate is set, but will not be used. Upon the plate is a slice of lemon. The lemon reminds us of the bitter fate of those captive and missing. We remember. The grains of salt on the plate remind us of the countless tears shed by those captives and missing, and by the families who seek answers. We remember. The wine glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us this day. We remember. The chair is empty, for they are not here. The missing, the captive, and the fallen are not present. We remember. The Bible represents the strength gained through faith to sustain those lost from our country. We remember. Remember all who have served alongside of them, who have donned the same uniform, being sworn to the same faith and allegiance. We will never forget their sacrifices. We remember. I will now raise a glass of water in a toast of honor to Americans missing, POWs, and MIAs. They are not forgotten so long as there's one of us left who remembers them, until the day they return. This empty table represents Americans missing from each of our 5 services: Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard, and civilians. The white table ceremony symbolizes that they are here with us in spirit. I would like to ask you to please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Amen. And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I would like to introduce our guest speaker. Everyone knows Joe, right? Did I give it away? You recognize him? He was. Joe was born in Sicily and immigrated to the United States at the age of 11. In 1967, he joined the Marine Corps at age 19 during the height of the Vietnam War. Joe was involved in some of the fiercest fighting of the Vietnam War, including the Tet Offensive. When he returned home from the war, the public did not honor him for his service. As a result of that experience, Joe has spent his life ensuring other veterans, particularly today's heroes from Iraq and Afghanistan, that they are treated with respect and dignity. The old saying of once a Marine, always a Marine holds true in the life of Joseph C. Bongiovanni. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Joe Bongiovanni.
Good morning. Good morning. Let me get set up here. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, my fellow patriots. It is truly an honor to be in your midst. Like John said, I was born in Sicily, came over here when I was 11 years old. I couldn't speak a word of English, and I became a voracious reader because I wanted to learn about my country. I read a lot about history, social studies, and a lot of the military campaigns, especially the ones in the Pacific. And I remember that flag raising of Iwo Jima, which Marines know about that, right? That image was seared in my brain, and I wanted to become a Marine. Well, in February of 1967, I went to Paris Island and did my basic training there, and from then went to Camp Geiger for advanced infantry training. I think they call it SOI now, correct? And just about before we were to graduate from there, we had received our orders, and I was supposed to be in, go to Del Mar for training in Amtracs, which are amphibious tractors. And during that time, there was the hill battles going on around Quezon. The hill battles, 861, 881, north and south. And they had just issued the M16 rifles. And there was a lot of casualties because of that. because of the malfunctions on the weapons. And so they called our training company together and they said, we have a change of plans for you. You are now all 0311. That means a grunt. 11 Bravos for you Army guys. And so that was, it's quite a change for us. Anyways, that was exciting because I wanted to, we were young and we were invincible and we wanted to see action. Well, we got to see some action. When, after advanced infantry training, went out to California, Camp Pendleton for jungle warfare training. Spent a few months out there. And then we flew out to Okinawa, and from there, took a nice long flight to Vietnam. Landed in Da Nang, and was immediately brought to a transit area where we would be awaiting to be assigned to a unit. Well, there's a bunch of Marines milling around there. They're all waiting. And I see this guy reading a newspaper. And the newspaper is from Niagara Falls Gazette. And that's where I was from. I said, this can't be right. This can't be 9,000 miles away on the first day in Vietnam. And you run into somebody from your hometown. But I went up to him and I put the paper down. And I said, who are you? And there's a fellow that his name was Nelson Davidson, I went to school with. Now, what are the odds of that happening? I've traveled all over the world, and I've never run into anybody that I knew. This happened to me 4 times, and I'll tell you about it a little later. 4 separate times in Vietnam, I met people that I knew. Well, so I was assigned to 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines. I didn't know which outfit I was going to, Bravo Company. I didn't know exactly where we were going to be, so we were choppered out on UH-34s, Sikorsky 34s. I know most of the Army guys were in Hueys and the Chinooks. We mostly rode in 34s and 46s, C9s, and the 53s, the big choppers. So it was raining, and we landed out in the field, and the battalion was on an operation. And that was my christening to Vietnam in the rain, first day. So they're moving along, and I stepped right in, and I remember eating cold sea rations while we're humping along, and that became a big habit there. That happened all the time. So a lot of you can relate to that. You know, the Vietnam War means a lot of different things to a lot of us, because it was all different for many of us. You know, you had the war in the South, and we were up north. It was totally a different type of fighting. You had the air war, you had the fast movers, the chopper pilots. By the way, I want to thank you, all you helicopter pilots, because you saved our butts, God knows how many times. And I think the helicopter defines the Vietnam War, because every time the Huey goes by, or any kind of chopper goes by, brings you back there. And I have good memories. You know, we get together all the time. Every year I go to our 3rd Marine Division reunion, and we get around and we talk, and we don't talk about the war, we don't talk about the battles, we talk about the crazy times, the good times that you had. And there's many of them, believe me. The Vietnam War, in that era, there was over 9 million personnel that served. About 3 million served in Vietnam. And I think there's around 650, 700,000 of us left. And we need to appreciate the days that we have left. Over 7,000 women served in Vietnam. And I want to thank, is there any nurses here? Do we have any nurses? Anybody, ladies that served in Vietnam? I know before, a couple that we've had here before. But I want to thank them. And now, I'm told that there's around 9 to 12 million people that profess to have served in Vietnam. Okay? There's a lot of posers out there. There's a lot of people that want to be you. So now it's cool to be a Vietnam vet, right? It took the country a long time to recognize the sacrifice and the service that we did, and to the 58,000 people that didn't come back. But I don't feel that I'm owed anything. I wanted to go there. I was proud to go there. And I would do it all over again, as I'm sure all of you would that have been there before. For the first 3 months that I was there, we were on a battalion landing team, which is basically a reactionary force. When other large units got into trouble and they were in battles, we would get choppered out. We were based off of 3 ships off the coast of Vietnam, and we would either get choppered out by 34s, or we would go by landing. We made 2 landings when I was there, amphibious landings. Thank God they were unopposed, because everybody on those boats was sick. From the fumes and driving around, cruising around while everybody got ready. Thank God that we weren't opposed. Anyways, the typical day that most of us Marines experience, we would start out early. We're going to move out at 0600 or whatever. Of course, you get ready to go, hurry up, eat shower, get ready, and when you're ready to go, they tell you to stand down. It's called hurry up and wait. And the Marine Corps does that real well. Okay? And I'm sure the Army did that too. Am I right, Colonel? So we would get going, and we would hump all day. Sometimes it was good, a lot of times it was bad. There was a lot of hills, a lot of sandy areas. We covered all different kinds of terrain. I'm thankful that I was not down in the Mekong Delta, because you guys had it rough down there. I couldn't imagine it. But we'd be humping 60, 80, I don't remember exactly how much it was, but we carried a lot of gear, a lot of ammo, a lot of food. And we would hump all day, take a break every once in a while. And pretty soon your uniforms would start to rot right off your body because of all the salt that you perspired. And it was just unbelievable. We would set in at night, in the evening, and you'd have to dig in. Of course, after you dug in, then we would have listening posts, or go out on ambushes, or roving patrols. But you didn't get much sleep. If you got 2-3 hours sleep every night, you were doing good. Of course, we would get resupplied by choppers with our famous sea rations from the Korean era. And it seemed like every time they dropped the boxes of sea rations or any kind of resupply that they brought, it would get dropped down at the bottom of the hill, and we would have to go down and hump and bring it back up. They couldn't make it too easy for us. And I think they did that on purpose to keep us mad. In late November, we came off the BLT, and I got to tell you, is there any sailors in here? The best chop and the best sleep that I ever had was on a ship. We would go there for a day or two to regroup, get new uniforms, new gear, and we'd go back out again. But I loved going on the ship. In late November, we came off the BLT and went further up north to the DMZ. And there, we were there to guard the engineers that were building the combat base, and it was called Alpha 3. And I don't know if you're familiar, a lot of you guys may be, but up there we had bases all along the DMZ. We were right next to one is the famous Cantien. Has anybody heard of Cantien? It was, they got hit every day. Lots of artillery. And same thing where we were at. And it was a sea of mud, red mud. And we would try to be building bunkers and guard the engineers. And invariably, every day, we had incoming rockets or artillery, heavy mortars. That was the norm. And you kind of get used to it. But that Cantien means Hill of Angels. And I think that's literally means that because there's a lot of angels that died there. And the monsoon season was upon us, and I know most of you, if you were there in Vietnam, you served during the monsoon, right, Bob? I mean, it would rain so hard you couldn't put your hand in front of you. I remember we stayed wet, I believe, for like almost 2 weeks straight. You take your socks off and your skin would come with it, would peel off. Of course, it didn't hurt, but you couldn't feel it. And then it got warm. In early January, we moved down south to Quank Tree Base, which is a huge base, and it was Highway 1 straddled it, and we were to the west. On the east side was a helicopter base and hospital, field hospital. Well, on the night of January 29th, or 30th, I can't remember exactly the day when it was, but Ted, we know about that. And we were going on a squad-size ambush. We had about 12 of us, mostly, we had a lot of new guys because we're always getting rotated, and you never really had a cohesive squad because through rotation or casualties, you always have a lot of new guys. So we had a briefing before we went out. It says, okay, listen, we're experiencing, or we think there's some groups of NBA going to be infiltrating here, and be on the lookout. There's going to be a roving patrol out in your area, so be on the lookout. Thank goodness, our squad leader, I was a fire team leader then, our squad leader, Carl Falcone, my good friend, knew how to read a map, and we were where we were supposed to be. We set up on a trail, and we had an M60 machine gun, and we had a starlight scope. It was just, I'd never seen it before. And that was the night vision of the time. It was about this big. Anyway, they told us, they said, don't lose that sucker. It's like $3,500, and you guys will pay for it. Anyway, we went out there at about 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke, and he said, there's movement out there. And so you try to get your vision clear. And I'm looking through the starlight scope, and at first I thought it was our guys, but then we see that these men have these poles strung between two of them. They're carrying recoilless rifles, heavy machine guns, and backpacks. And we didn't carry backpacks when we went out. Matter of fact, we didn't have flak jackets, we didn't have helmets or anything. All we had was some sagebrush for cover. So, but immediately we contacted our base by radio. Carl did, and it wasn't very long, and we had artillery coming our way, and Puff was on station, and all hell broke loose, ladies and gentlemen. It was just unbelievable. I became as thin as a sheet of paper lying on that ground. That artillery was coming right at us. And like I said, thank God we were in the place where we needed to be. The North Vietnamese, circled back around us, and what happened was they were between us and the base, and they attacked the base, and you see the green traces going everywhere, and we had mortars coming in. It was just The next morning, there was blood trails everywhere, bodies everywhere, and we found they left a lot of ammo, a lot of weapons behind. And I couldn't believe it, there was a huge bag of candy that they left behind. I said, these guys are a lot like us. They like the same thing we do. Anyways, for the next following week, we went out on company-sized patrols, and we engaged the enemy, and we kicked butt. After the Tet Offensive, the North Vietnamese were pretty much decimated. And had we gone up north and had we followed through, I think we could have ended that war a lot sooner. But as it was with the media, what happened was all these bases throughout the whole country were attacked. And we had been told by the generals that, you know, there was light at the end of the tunnel, that we were winning, and it will be over soon. Well, I think that changed things. And, well, you know the end, you know the outcome. So during, this is April, the next few months, the Vietnamese managed to replenish their troops. And, you know, they said that they would have unending men. If they got killed, they would replenish them.
Hello.
It didn't matter. And they had the fortitude. They didn't place the value on life like we did. And I'm glad that we did. I'm glad that we're not like that. But anyways, on April 30th of 1968, I was in the hospital for non-combat issues. We had a lot of jungle rot and had some tumors. Anyways, I spent 3 weeks in Da Nang at the hospital there, and we would go out to the beach and play in the salt water to get healed, and ate some good food and became lazy. Well, at that time, you get to know some of the corpsmen there, and you know, where are you from, blah, blah, you learn a little bit about each other. And he says, you know, there's a nurse here that's from Niagara Falls. He brought her over here, there. Well, she happened to lived right around the corner from my house, okay? And her sister went to school with my brother. So that's another one that I ran into. Anyways, after that, about 3 weeks, I was leaving with a friend of mine. We were going to the airfield to catch a flight back to Quaint Tree. And there's a 6-by going by, and this fella yells out, "Bon Giovanni!" How can that be? So the truck comes to a screeching halt, and I ran over there, and this fella's name was Juan Morales. He lived right down the street from me. I mean, what are the odds of that? I'm not making this up. This is honestly, that's true. So, anyways, we caught a flight back, and when I got back, our first sergeant got back to the air. Our first sergeant says, "Hey, listen, we need you to go to a Gray's registration, and we need you to identify some guys that got killed." Well, what had happened, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, which had taken over for us on the battalion landing team, had been called to this village of Dai Do. It's called the Battle of Dong Ha. There's a great book that's written about it. It's called the Battle of Dong Ha. It's a joint operation, Army and Marines. Keith Nolan wrote it, and if you want to hear a good battle story, it's a great book. John, are we going to have is any of the photos going to be going around? Or? Yeah, because there's some photos. There's a lot of photos of the guys that I served with, and there's a couple, 2 Marines that received the Medal of Honor in that battle. They were Captain Livingston and Captain J. Vargas. They were both company commanders, and they received the Medal of Honor. And Colonel Weiss, who was the battalion commander for 2-4, he received the Navy Cross. the company that I was with, Bravo Company, 1-3, were attached to 2-4. What had happened was the Quandiet River, coming from the Gulf of Tonkin, all these riverboats would be bringing supplies to Dong Ha. Dong Ha combat base up in North Vietnam, in the northern part of I Corps, was the depot for all the troops, for everybody up there in the north. So all your ammo, food, everything was coming through here. And there were some boats that were bringing supplies in, and they were open fire on by North Vietnamese. So they sent the 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, and Bravo Company was attached to them, and they were on Amtraks, sitting on top of Amtraks, crossing the river. Well, as they were crossing the river, all hell broke loose, and anyway, they suffered a lot of casualties. My company commander, Lieutenant George Norris, great guy. We call him the swashbuckler, because that's what he was. He thought he was an actor from Iowa, and great company commander. He was killed instantly. Most of the officers were killed on the first day. We only had one officer left, and that was my platoon commander, Lieutenant Tom Kevin. And when I got back, they sent it to Graves Registration to identify some of the guys there, and one fella, his name was Nelson Davidson. Well, Nelson Davidson was an American Indian. I was in 1st platoon, he was in 2nd platoon. We knew each other, but not real well. So when I went to identify him, they had him on a gurney there, and they had the tag on the bag, and had the address on there. And he lived on Ashland Avenue, right down the street from me in Agriculture. I just, I think about that, and I break out in a cold sweat. Some of the photos most of the photos are mine. Some of them are just photos of Vietnam scenes, but I wanted to point out those two gentlemen, whenever they come up there. So most of the Bravo Company lost its effectiveness. They suffered over 50% casualties. And I was choppered out there this is the 3rd day. And I've never seen so much death and destruction. There was North Vietnamese bodies bloated because it was hot. And it was just a horrible scene. But they didn't realize, they thought there was just a battalion or a regiment of North Vietnamese, but they had the majority of the 324th NVA division was there. And what they were trying to do was they were trying to dissect the country in that area. Because Dong Ha was, even with the Route 9 would go west out to Khe Sanh. And that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to cut the country in half, and had they been able to do that, nobody would be able to get resupplied for a while. So it would have created havoc. Oh, excuse me. As I said, the only officer that was left there was Lieutenant Thomas Kevin, and there's a photo of him somewhere, but I'm not sure these are. John, I don't recognize these photos.
Yeah, we're working on it, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Anyway, he was the only officer left, and on 7 July, he was KIA. They're up at this area called Jones Creek, up in Lebanon Square. And I often, we lost a lot of brothers there, and you often wake up sweating and thinking, it could have been me on top of one of those Amtraks. And why were we spared? I was never wounded. I saw a lot of combat, but the good Lord was with me. And I think we all have this, what they call survival gift, or guilt, right? You know, why me? But the good Lord had other plans for us. So it's incumbent on all of us to honor and continue what we're doing here today, to honor our men and women that are on that wall in BC. You know, a lot of things are said about when we returned that we were not honored or we weren't respected. I didn't see a whole lot of that. Thank God, where I was from, Western New York, was a pretty patriotic area. I didn't experience a lot of that, but I heard a lot about that. And I remember being in Vietnam when we were here about all the demonstrations that were going on back home. And it was disheartening. But anyways, when I got back, I didn't think about it. You know, I'm just glad to be home. You know, you're 20 years old. You don't know what's going on. I mean, in our world, when being in an outfit and a platoon part of a company, all you cared about was that squad, that little team of yours. And obviously, if you were a lieutenant, your platoon, if you're a captain, your company, you worry about your company, colonel, like early, you worry about your battalion, and colonel, you worry about your regiment, and so forth. But all we thought about was our little world. And when I get home, I didn't care. I didn't think about it for years. And of course, we didn't have any means like they have today of connecting with your brothers. I think in the last 10 years, I found quite a few of the guys, thanks to the internet and the Facebook and all that good stuff. So we, I don't know, I feel like sometimes we get pity. I don't want any pity. I don't want anybody to say, you know, you were treated bad, or it doesn't matter anymore. That's over and done with. We have to worry about today, and we have to worry about tomorrow. We have to love our families. We have to love ourselves, and just be proud of your service. I started to get involved in 2007 when General Booty, they formed this organization called the Semper Community Task Force, which many of you are familiar with. And there we are. That's my best button right there. Robert Trim, I'm in the center. Anyways, we wanted to take care of our troops that are coming back now. And you, the Vietnam vets, are instrumental in taking care of these young men. And it's because of us. We didn't want the same thing. We didn't want the neglect that we had. So we want to make sure that they get taken care of. And I think you've done a hell of a job. And I'm proud to be from this community. I think this is the best community in the country. I've never seen more people be as patriotic and caring and loving and accepting of our troops than we have here. So, you know, they call the World War II the greatest generation. And rightly so. Was there any World War II vets here, John? Anybody? You've got a grandfather there, right? The chick magnet. He served her grandfather served in the Navy, and he was there at Pearl Harbor during the attack. And he was there at the landing on Normandy, driving either Coxswain, I believe. Rowboat, or yeah. Anyways, they're the greatest generation, but I believe every generation is great. I think our generation was great. You know, a lot of us were drafted. I joined. We wanted to go. We answered our nation's call. And I feel that we were a great generation too. You know, it was an unpopular war, and unfortunately we suffered for it. But now these young men that are serving now, these young men and women, the guy on the bottom there that I'm dealing on, he was killed there at Dido. I think they're a great generation. Excuse me, I lost my train of thought. But I feel like we are a fine relay team. We just keep passing the baton on from generation to generation to generation. And we do what we're called to do. And so I think we need to be proud of our service. I'm damn proud to be a Vietnam vet. And I wear it on my sleeve. I think about it every day. I think about my brothers that didn't come home. But by the same token, we have a life to live. That's Lieutenant John Bobo. He's a Medal of Honor recipient there. He was from Niagara Falls there today. There's Captain Jay Vargas. He was a company commander of a hotel company, 2-4. And this is what I'm talking about. That banner says, "You don't know us, but you fought for us." And that's our community honoring our young men and women. If you've not made it to the wall in DC, you need to go. You need to go and pay respect. So when you walk out of here, you need to hold your head up high, and you need to be proud of your service. Like I said, millions out there are posing as you. They want to be what we did, and they did. And they'll have that legacy to live with, and we have ours, right? We're proud. I'm proud of what the hell I did, proud of my service, proud of my brothers. I have no regrets. I would do it again. You are the real deal. Don't forget that. Semper Fi. I'll be happy to take any questions if anybody has any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer what little I know. Is there anybody here that served during that? 23.
Tonight,
Awesome. Yes, sir.
hey Joe, you gave credit to Army Aviation and aviation altogether. And that's, thank you very much. But the only reason for aviation is to support the guys and the gals on the ground. That's our mission. It was our honor.
Well, you know, we're like a team, right? You're like a football team. You need a quarterback, and you need a center, and you need wide receivers, and you need guys running. So it takes a team. But, you know, I have some guys, I'm on Facebook, and I see a lot of Vietnam vets talking about, well, geez, I feel like I didn't do my part because I was in supply, or I was in this, or I was in that. It doesn't matter. We're part of the team, and you all did. If you join the service and you serve, then you did your duty. And that's all that matters. That's all anybody can ask for. That's Carl Falcone. That's my buddy, the squad leader. And there's General Frank Laguti. And that gentleman sitting down is Sergeant Major. He was wounded in Iraq. Had both of his legs blown off. But here's the Patriot Guard at the airport greeting our young men and women that are coming to town, which they'll be coming next week. And I urge you to be involved, to meet them at the airport or meet them at the Westin when they're coming in. That's my graduation picture there in boot camp.
They're coming this week.
They're
coming this week, Wednesday.
Wednesday? Yeah. Yeah, I think there's 58 or 60 of them coming. But anyways, we need to be there and we need to honor them. So I want to thank everybody that is involved in putting this program together. And I know there's a lot of Marines and a lot of Army and a lot of Vietnam vets, but I think we need to work on getting the young people out here and civilians that don't know, that may not be aware, because we need to keep the story alive. You know, and unfortunately in school nowadays, they don't teach anything about, they don't know anything about World War II, they don't know anything about Korea, they don't know anything about, hell, they don't even know about 9/11, some of them. Yeah, it's incumbent on us to make sure that they know. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Joe. Please be seated. Joe, thank you so much for those comments. Sorry about the pictures, by the way. But we did get them up. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Command Sergeant Major Retired Charlie Miller, President of Chapter 1067, Vietnam Veterans of America, to make a presentation to Joe.
So, Joe, on behalf of the 650 members of Vietnam Veteran Chapter 1067, the largest chapter in the state of Alabama, I might add. I might also add that Joe is a life member of this chapter. Thank you, Joe. We want to present Joe today with one of the first chips that honors the Vietnam veterans. Joe, we thank you so much for what you do. Yeah. We thank you for your service and your continued support. I just want to tell Joe this. Joe, our commitment to you is that we will never, ever let your stories go untold. Thank you so much.
Joe mentioned the 58,000 plus names on the Vietnam Wall in Washington, D.C. Well, we had the wall here just last year, 1 year ago, and we were very fortunate to bring the wall to Huntsville. So we had some one-of-a-kind plaques made up, and Charlie and I want to present one to Joe, and it says, "The Wall That Heals, 2018, Huntsville, Alabama." And Joe, we want you to remember your friends every time you look at this plaque.
I appreciate you being instrumental in bringing that crowd in.
Thank you again, Joe. Joe will be available for photos, or if you just want to come up and swap stories with him, Joe will be right here in front. Ladies and gentlemen, we're nearing the end of the program for this year's Vietnam War. Let's see, anyone wishing to have a 50th anniversary Vietnam War lapel pin, like what I'm wearing and Joe is wearing, okay, please feel free to stop by Chapter 1067, their table back there. You can get a pin. Those pins are available to anyone who served during 1964 to 1965. You're part of the Vietnam War group. Next year, hopefully we'll continue again. The Vietnam War went 11 years. What we want to do is continue these events for 11 years. This is year number 7. So we're on the kind of the downhill slide. And we want to present stories like what Joe is presenting. So if anyone's got some good stories and they want to get up in front and speak to us and share that, by all means, let me know, okay? We've got 4 more chances to do that, and hopefully we'll continue to honor our Vietnam veterans that way. Chaplain Henderson, will you please join us for the benediction?
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Let us pray. Father, thank you for this special time together. Lord, we ask your blessings as we depart. Lord, bless our nation. Bless all who served. Bless those who serve today. Bless everyone present. Lord, help each of us to finish well. In Jesus' holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us for a retro 1970 style lunch in the atrium. It's free. So this is what we try to recreate is what we would have in the field in 1970. Hot dogs and burgers, nothing fancy. And also, please spend some time with our displays around the area. And other than that, have a great day. Thank you so much for coming.
VVA Chapter 1067, Serving Vietnam-Era Veterans. Never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. Thank you for watching.